If you're watching this video right now, I want you to pause for a second and be honest with yourself. How many times have you known the right English word, but your mouth just froze? You're not alone. Most English learners believe their biggest problem is grammar. It's not. The biggest mistake isn't your grammar. It's that you've been learning English as a subject instead of training it as a skill. And skills aren't built by memorizing rules. They're built by repetition, by movement, by your mouth and your brain working together until the words come out before you even have to. Think about them. This lesson can change the way you speak English, because today you're going to discover something most courses never teach you: real-life shadowing. Not textbook shadowing, not slow, robotic repeating, real shadowing, the kind where you speak with native speakers, at their pace, with their rhythm, until English stops feeling like a translation exercise in your head and starts feeling like your own voice. I know what it feels like to prepare a perfect sentence in your mind and then freeze the moment someone asks you a question. That fear is normal. But here's the truth. Fluency isn't about being fearless. It's about training your brain to respond automatically, so confidence shows up on its own because your mouth already knows what to do. This is day 16 of our shadowing journey. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why some learners speak smoothly without translating in their heads, and how you can start building that same automatic fluency starting today, starting with your own voice. So let's stop overthinking English and start speaking it. Here's where we begin. Let's talk about something almost every English learner does without even realizing it, and it might be the single biggest reason your speaking feels slow, stiff, or delayed. You hear a question. Your brain quickly translates it into your native language. You think of the answer in your native language, then you translate that answer back into English word by word before you finally speak. Sound familiar? If it does, I want you to know something important. This isn't a sign that you're bad at English. It's a sign that your brain is doing exactly what it was trained to do. Because for years, that's how you were taught to learn. Vocabulary lists, grammar rules, translation exercises, all of it built one habit. Think first in your language, then convert it into English. But here's the problem. Real conversations don't wait for you. Native speakers don't pause while you mentally translate a sentence 3 times before responding. And so even when you know the words, even when your grammar is technically correct, that split-second translation delay makes you sound hesitant, unsure, and disconnected from the conversation. It's exhausting, too. You're not just speaking English, you're doing mental gymnastics behind the scenes just to get one sentence out. Now here's the empowering part. This habit can be unlearned. Your brain is not fixed. It is trainable, moldable, and incredibly adaptable. And the moment you stop translating and start thinking directly in English, everything changes. Your responses become faster. Your sentences flow instead of stutter. You stop sounding like you're reciting an answer and start sounding like you're simply talking. So how do you break this translation habit? It starts with exposure that skips translation completely. When you shadow real native speakers repeating their words, their rhythm, their natural phrasing, in real time, your brain doesn't get the chance to translate. It's moving too fast for that. Instead, your brain begins forming direct connections: English sound, English meaning, English response. No detour through your native language, no delay, just direct, automatic communication. This is exactly why today's practice matters so much. Every sentence you shadow, every phrase you repeat out loud, is quietly rewiring that old translation habit into something new. Something automatic, something native-like, something yours. I want you to remember this. You don't need a bigger vocabulary to sound more fluent. You need fewer detours between your thoughts and your words. And that shift doesn't happen through memorization. It happens through repetition. Through real practice, through moments exactly like the one you're about to do in this lesson. So take a breath, trust the process, and get ready, because in the next part of today's practice, you're going to start training your brain to skip translation completely, one shadowed sentence at a time. Here's something most learners never hear, but it's the truth. You can memorize 1,000 English words and still freeze in a real conversation. Why? Because knowing a word and being able to produce it instantly, under real pressure, with your own mouth, those are two completely different skills. And this is exactly where shadowing changes everything. Shadowing isn't about studying English, it's about training it. The same way an athlete trains muscle memory. Think about it this way. A basketball player doesn't become great by reading about free throws. They become great by shooting the same shot over and over, until their body knows exactly what to do without their mind having to calculate it first. Speaking English fluently works the same way. Your mouth, your tongue, your breathing, your rhythm, they all need repetition, not just your memory. So what does real shadowing actually look like? It's simple, but it's powerful. You listen to a native speaker, and instead of pausing to repeat after them, you speak at the same time as them, matching their pace, their pauses, their intonation, almost like you're their shadow. That's where the name comes from. You're not translating, you're not thinking about grammar rules. You're simply moving your mouth the way a native speaker moves theirs in real time. At first, this will feel uncomfortable. You might stumble, you might feel like you're moving too fast, or that your mouth can't keep up. That's completely normal, and honestly, that discomfort is a good sign. It means you're stretching a muscle that's never been trained this way before. Just like your legs feel sore after the first day of running, your speech muscles need time to adapt to the rhythm of natural English. Give it a few days, and something remarkable starts happening. Phrases that used to feel awkward in your mouth start to feel smooth. Sentences you used to build word by word start coming out whole. This is because shadowing doesn't just build vocabulary, it builds muscle memory for speech. Your brain begins to store not just what words mean, but how they feel to say, how they connect to each other, how stress and rhythm naturally flow from one word to the next. This is the missing piece that traditional studying, flashcards, grammar books, silent reading simply can't give you. You can understand English perfectly and still speak it slowly, because understanding lives in the mind, but fluency lives in the mouth. So today, as you practice, I want you to shift your mindset. You're not just trying to get the words right. You're training a physical skill, one repetition at a time. Be patient with yourself. Every sentence you shadow is one more rep, one more step towards speaking that feels automatic instead of effortful. Your voice is capable of so much more than you think. Today, we start training it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that when native speakers talk, their words almost seem to blend together, flowing, rising, falling, like music? And have you ever noticed that when you speak, your words come out more evenly spaced, more careful, almost like you're reading each one off a page in your mind? That difference isn't about vocabulary, it's about rhythm. And rhythm might be the most overlooked secret to sounding naturally fluent. Every language has its own music. In English, some words get stressed and stretched, while others get compressed and almost disappear. Native speakers don't say, "I am going to go to the store," with every word equally weighted. It becomes something closer to, "I'm gonna go to the store," with the stress landing on gonna and store, while the smaller words rush by almost unnoticed. This isn't laziness or slang, it's the natural heartbeat of the language. And here's the powerful part. Once your ear and your mouth learn this heartbeat, something incredible happens. You stop thinking in individual words and start thinking in flowing chunks of meaning. This is why rhythm training changes more than just how you sound. It actually changes how you think. When you absorb the natural rise and fall of English through repeated shadowing, your brain stops processing language word by word, like reading a list, and starts processing it in phrases the way native speakers do. Instead of mentally assembling, I am going to the store, piece by piece, your brain starts to grab the whole phrase, I'm gonna go to the store, as one single unit, one thought, one breath, one natural flow. That's the difference between speaking slowly and correctly and speaking naturally and confidently. And this is exactly why simply knowing grammar rules will never fully get you there. You can know that we usually contract going to into gonna in casual speech, but knowing the rule and feeling the rhythm in your own mouth are two very different experiences. Rhythm has to be absorbed through your ears and repeated through your voice, again and again, until it stops being something you think about and becomes something you simply do. This is also why real-life shadowing, using actual native conversations, not slow textbook audio, is so essential. Textbook English is often flattened, evenly paced, artificially clear. It teaches you correct words, but it doesn't teach you the true rhythm of real communication. Real speech has music to it, and your brain needs exposure to that real music to internalize it. So as you continue today's shadowing practice, don't just focus on saying the right words. Feel the rhythm underneath them. Notice where the voice rises, where it falls, where words melt into each other. Let your mouth feel the beat, not just recite the lyrics, because once rhythm becomes automatic, your English won't just sound more natural, it will start to feel like it's finally truly your own. I want to tell you about a mistake that almost no one talks about, not because it's rare, but because it's invisible. It doesn't show up on a grammar test. It doesn't get corrected by an app. In fact, you could have perfect grammar, a wide vocabulary, and still make this mistake every single time you speak. That mistake is this: speaking English with the pauses, pacing, and breathing patterns of your native language instead of English's own. Here's what I mean. Every language has its own natural breathing rhythm, where speakers instinctively pause, where they take a breath, how long they hold a thought before releasing it into the next sentence. When you learned to speak your native language as a child, you absorbed this rhythm without ever noticing it. It became invisible, automatic, built into you. But when you speak English, if no one ever taught you its breathing rhythm, your brain quietly defaults back to the one it already knows. Your native pacing, applied to English words. This is why some learners can have excellent pronunciation of individual words and still sound slightly off to a native speaker's ear. It's not the words, it's the pauses in the wrong places. It's holding a breath, a beat too long, or rushing through a phrase that a native speaker would naturally slow down for. It's subtle, so subtle, that most learners never even realize it's happening. But it's exactly this hidden mismatch that creates the sense of accented or unnatural speech, far more than any single mispronounced word ever could. The good news? This is one of the most fixable things in your entire English journey, and it doesn't require you to memorize a single new rule. It requires exposure and imitation. This is, again, why shadowing real conversations is so powerful. When you shadow a native speaker in real time, you're not just copying their words, you're copying their breath, You're copying the exact moment they pause before a key word for emphasis. You're copying how long they hold a thought before letting the next one flow out. Little by little, without even consciously trying, your own internal rhythm starts to shift to match theirs. I want you to think of it like this. Words are the notes, but breathing and pacing are the timing of the music. You can play all the right notes, but if the timing is off, the song still doesn't sound right. The moment your pacing aligns with natural English speech, everything you say, even simple, basic sentences, starts to sound more confident, more fluid, more native-like. So today, as you shadow, don't just listen for the words, listen for the silence between them. Notice where the speaker breathes, where they pause, where they let a moment simply sit before moving on. That silence is teaching you just as much as the words themselves, and it might be the missing piece you've been searching for all along. Here's a question I want you to really sit with. What's the difference between someone who practices English for years and still feels stuck, and someone who practices for a fraction of that time and suddenly sounds fluent? It's not talent, it's not intelligence, it's not even the number of hours logged. The real difference is what happens after the practice session ends. Most learners treat a lesson like today's as an isolated event. Something you do, then close, then move on from until the next time you feel motivated. But fluency doesn't work that way. Fluency is built through consistency, not intensity. One incredible focused hour of shadowing practice today will help you, but 10 small, repeated sessions spread across the coming days will transform you. This is because your brain doesn't fully absorb a new speech pattern the first time it hears it. It absorbs it through repetition, through returning to the same rhythms and phrases again and again, until what once felt effortful becomes effortless. So here's what I want you to do, starting today. Don't just shadow once and move on. Take the same sentences, the same phrases, the same rhythms you practiced in this lesson, and revisit them tomorrow and the day after that. Not out of pressure, but out of trust. Trust that every single repetition is quietly rewiring the way your mouth moves, the way your brain processes English, the way your confidence responds when you're asked a question in real life. You are not just learning English today, you are training it the same way you train any skill you wanted to master. And I want you to notice something important. You don't need to feel fluent yet for this to be working. Progress at this stage is often invisible from the inside. You won't necessarily feel different after one day, but your brain is changing, quietly. Beneath the surface, the same way a muscle grows stronger, long before you can see the difference in the mirror. Trust the process even on the days it feels slow. Especially on the days it feels slow. This is day 16 of our journey together, which means you've already proven something important about yourself. You're someone who shows up. You're someone who chooses growth over comfort, again and again. That consistency, not perfection, is what turns today's practice into tomorrow's automatic fluency. One day, and it may come sooner than you expect, you'll find yourself answering a question in English without translating, without hesitating, without even thinking about it. The words will simply be there, waiting, because you gave your brain the repetition it needed to make them yours. So don't stop here. Come back tomorrow, shadow again. Let your voice keep growing, one sentence at a time, because the fluent English speaker you're working to become isn't somewhere far away. She's already forming, right now, inside every single practice session you complete.